First and foremost is that raising children Islamically begins before the child is born. It begins before the child is born. Raising children in a quote-unquote Islamic fashion, it begins when a person looks for a spouse, when a man looks for a wife, when a woman looks for a husband. That's the first step of raising good Islamic children. Who do you marry? What are you looking for? What is the integrity? What is the character of this man? What is the character and integrity of this woman? Where did she come from? What is her family like? How was she raised? Did she go through any traumatic things in her life? Did she have a father, a mother, drug abuse? The list goes on of these problems and social ills. So try your best to select a wife or husband that's suitable, someone that's righteous, someone that has to come from good stock, as they say. That's the first step. Asking Allah to give you a righteous, obedient wife. Asking Allah to give you a righteous, strong husband, and the list goes on. That's first. Number two is that a man is to make dua and a woman is to make dua. There's a specific dua that a man makes every time he's intimate with his wife, for Allah to protect the child from the shaitan. The next step in raising a good child in Islam, this is in brief, we're not mentioning the proofs and evidences, this is in brief, is that you want to make sure that you nourish your wife and nourish your child with halal and not with haram. If you have a job in which you deal with riba or alcohol or the flesh of swine or this type of magazine or movie or this or that or lottery, gambling, and these haram types of things, is a problem. Feeding your family with haram has many adverse effects. It's going to hurt the woman, it's going to hurt the child through means you don't know. You're feeding them with bad things that are displeasing to Allah. It's going to have a metaphysical backlash. The next step is when the child is born, you continue to make dua for it. You give the child a good Islamic name, a meaningful, symbolic name. A meaningful and symbolic name. And it's very unfortunate that we live today in which many people, they want to do away with the concept of symbolic names. And somebody says, well, it's not haram to have a non-Muslim name. I don't have to have an Arabic name or Arabian name. My name is Tim or John or Michael or this and that. Okay, we're not saying it's obligatory that you have to have an Arabic name. But what is more symbolic and meaningful? Abdullah, Abdul Wadud, or Jim and Tom and Dick. Honestly, this is a reality. And many people, not to go off the top, but it's very important about choosing the name for the child. When you join a gang or an order or you're part of a clique or this or that, you're an actor or a rapper or this and that, what's the first thing that they do or you do? Or you get a title, a nickname. No one calls you by your first name. They call them Cat or Blue or Hickey or Big Red or this or that. Everybody understand this is the first thing. Is this not the case? It's not the case? It's the first thing. And no one knows your first name. And the proof is that they want to disrespect you. And when you leave the group, what's the first thing they do? They call you by your what? First name. Listen, Martin or Michael or Dennis, Kenneth, Derek. They call you by your first name. And they disrespect you. So the concept of the name and it being what? Symbolic. Everybody understand this? The name is what? Symbolic. Let alone the concept of, and this is a little off topic, it's very relative. Because we're talking about people that call themselves imams and mashayikh. They want to be known by Western names. And I'm not saying this, that's haram, but it's a point. Is that you're easily attributed to jahiliyyah. When your name is known as Derek Fisher, I'm Imam Derek Fisher, that's my name. Everyone can trace me, follow me, and find me. Is this not the case? This person from Jahiliyyah, high school, this one, sweetheart, flan, all those people can follow you. Who wants that? Well, your name is Abu Aisha. You limited people that can follow you. Everybody understand this? So the child deserves a good, wholesome Islamic name. Abdurrahman, Abdullah, Fatima Zahra, things like this. Everybody understand this? Then the child, you should slaughter for the child. Make the aqiqah. Shave the child's head. These are all from the rulings of the child. And to ask Allah's protection and refuge for the child, as is mentioned in the Quran. Then you continue to feed the child with halal. Then you raise the child. You teach them the basics of Islam, even if they don't understand. Bring them to the masjid when they're young like that. Have your son mimic you in the salat. Jump up and down, shake and dance in the salat. He learns how to pray eventually. He's accustomed to the masjid. He knows men sit here, women sit there. When you see a brother, you shake his hand, you look him in the face. It has an effect upon the child. It has an effect upon the child. And then when the child becomes 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, you put an overgarment on your daughter. Oh, she's young. Don't be harsh. Don't be extreme. Her body's not developed. Are you sick? What's wrong with you? No one's looking at a little girl. These characteristics are instilled in a child at a young age. You do not force hijab upon your daughter when she's 15 or 16. You wear the hijab when she's 7, 8, and 9. And she doesn't feel uncomfortable leaving the house unless she's covered in a certain way. You instill courageousness and chivalry in a boy at a young age. Son, go bring me this. I dare you to go get this. Go grab this and come back. You have your son, a little toy sword. You instill in him manhood, men, a rough, tough, rugged. You understand these things at a young age. And then as they grow older, you teach them more. You give them the mandatory acts of salah, of hijab, of tahara. This is haram, that's unlawful. Good Muslim friends. And most importantly is thorough Islamic education. It's thorough Islamic education to the best of your ability. Now you may ask the question, well, Yahya, you're giving us this long lecture, and it's not the question. We're talking about children that are alive today. Children that are what? Alive today and big and grown. We say before we get to this, we have to start what? With this. We have to start at the asl and then what? Work our way up. If your child is alive today, and he's 16, 17, 18, 15, 12, I'm not trying to make anybody despair or lose hope. But a bitter, harsh reality is that a big part of the battle is already what? It's already lost, unfortunately. Don't give up. A lot is left to be done, but a big part of it is what? Is already gone. 12 years old, 13 years old, the child is starting to form his or her own personality. Everybody understand this? So what can you do? Obviously, you have to humble yourself. If you neglected your child for these years, you didn't pray yourself. You sold alcohol yourself. You drunk alcohol yourself. You yourself don't wear hijab. How do you expect your daughter to wear hijab? So when you become enlightened, you receive the guidance, you learn what's correct, you have to be gentle with your children. And this is one of the most common things we see in Queens, New York. A lot of brothers, wherever they come from, they lived upon quote-unquote jahiliyyah. They came to New York, they learned about the sunnah, they learned about this dawah, flan. They grow their beards, they cover up, they practice. But their wives and their children are still what? They're still stuck in the Caribbean. Their wives and their children are still stuck back then. And they're like, look, just because you have a big beard and you wouldn't be all super duper religious, that don't mean I want to live like that. And it's unfortunate. And a lot of times it comes from the brothers being too harsh and too hasty. You have to gently bring them in. Kindly bring them in. The same applies to your child. Don't just restrict your child and lock them down and beat them. Go to the masjid. Let's go to the masjid, son. It's a basketball game at the masjid. It's a lecture at the masjid. It's a dinner at the masjid. It's other youths there at the masjid. Everybody understand this? You have to gently Islamify them. You have to do what? Gently, gradually, progressively what? Islamification. Everybody understand this? It's very important. That's right. I understand this? You have to Islamify them. You have to. But gently. Another concept or piece of advice is that if your child wants to do good, wants to be righteous and pious, you shouldn't try to hold your child back, as some parents do, unfortunately. If your child wants to memorize the Quran and study Islam, let him study Islam. No, but you have to be a doctor too. And you have to be an engineer too. Why? Why? Why would you take a thoroughbred horse and tie up its legs? Let the horse gallop. That's what it's made to do. And our children don't want to be as pious and study Islam and be righteous in the masjid. Let your child practice Islam. You think your rizq comes to you because of your degree or your job? You think because you're an engineer or physician or you work for the sanitation or you work at this place, Omar, you think you make your money for yourself? Allah gives you that rizq. Allah gives you that rizq. So don't hold your child back. So in brief, having good company around your child is very important. You have to have good friends. If your daughter is around girls that curse and swear and are sassy and fussy and too fresh, that's how she's going to be. If your daughter's around girls that are shy, clean, and noble, respectable, that's how she's going to be. If your son is around people that smoke and talk about this rapper and this person and this girl and this picture on the phone, wallahi, we've sat in the masjid several times. Alhamdulillah, one of the brothers, alhamdulillah, he made a total turnaround. He comes to the masjid, he prays. There was one day in Ramadan in Queens, New York, I was eating iftar. And there was a bunch of young guys in the masjid, 12 years old, 13 years old. They were young. no older than 14 years old. They were laughing and joking and passing around a phone with pornographic pictures on it in the masjid, in iftar. I swear, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. They were laughing, oh, check it out. Right next to me. And they didn't know that I was paying attention to them. And I told them, I said, listen, guys, you know, that's not cool. You can't do that, especially in this place. That's not right. So they put up the phone, alhamdulillah, many of those brothers, wallah, alhamdulillah, I know 2 of them, they come to the match in 109, I'm going to say who they are. They, alhamdulillah, started walking straight. The point is that, do you think all of them wanted to look at those pictures? No, but company. Tuyur and the tuyur ala ashkaliha taqa. It says birds of a feather, what? Flock together. Character is a thief. Everybody understand this? If you're rolling with a wah, then your friend is one, then you are too. Everybody understand this? You put in whatever word you want to put it in the dots. Everybody understand this? So the company that you keep with your children is very important. And you can't be laxed, but you can't be overly, excessively harsh. It has a balance. There's a what? There's a balance. And if you've wasted years, then you have to be even more what? Delicate and soft. Not diligent. You have to be softer. Because now he's going to feel that you're boxing him in now. And you're forcing him to go to the masjid. You gotta be gentle. You gotta be what? Gentle but firm, but you can't, it's not the same no more. The clay is already molded. The clay is dry. The semen is what? When the semen is wet and fresh, you can write in it. You leave a footprint and it's easy. It's not the same anymore. So therefore, these are some general pieces of advice. Dua to Allah, first and foremost, as we said. Feeding the child with the halal. Putting the child in an Islamic environment to the best of your ability, Islamic education, Islamic identity. If you go to public school, know that you're a Muslim son. When you have people on your block that you play with, know that you're what? A Muslim. You're not the same. You're different. I'm sorry. Whether you like it or not, you're different than them. You're special. You have to instill this in them. You have an Islamic what? Personality. The name, clothes, prayer, how you talk, how you walk is a part of the Islamic personality. But how can you do this if you yourself have a weak Islamic personality? Everybody understand this? It's a problem now. When you're afraid of people knowing your true name, Ahmed. When you're afraid of looking like a Muslim. When you're afraid of going to the masjid in the daytime. When you're afraid, it's a problem. Everybody understand this? It's very important, brothers and sisters. So this is a brief shake. Obviously, a topic like this needs an entire series of lectures. And one of that, we've done what? We've done a series on this on hadithdisciple.com. We spoke on Tarbiyah Islamiyah. We've done lectures on raising children, khutbahs on raising children. All of it can be found on hadithdisciple.com in abundance. Walillahi alhamd.